And we are on air. Hello, everyone. As most of y'all know who are tuned in, my name is Elohim Ali. We are today discussing whether black people should marry or date white people. Um, my brother here is a groove brother. Before he introduces himself, I just want to let y'all know we're both grooves. And if you want to know what Groove is, Groove 5 Grooves of Fellowship Incorporated is a non-Greek Kemetic-based organization that is known to be very Afrocentric with the Kemetic 5 from ancient Egypt and known to be accepting of all peoples. With no further ado, I'm going to let my brother Dominique tell y'all who he is.
How y'all doing, people? I'm Dominic Kane. Like my brother said, I'm also a member of Groove by Groove, and we're just here to have a good civil disagreement discussion.
Most definitely. Um, so to explain to y'all how this came about, a lot of you who follow me on Instagram or who may be a friend on Facebook saw my post where I kind of cited or referenced or quoted a conversation I had, a part of my conversation, and I pretty much said, it pretty much said, "Oh, you don't date white women or you don't marry white women, you're a racist." And my response was, "You want me to marry the children of my oppressor? Um, you are a racist." Um, so let's just start with there, brother. Just tell everybody what you disagreed about, and then we just gonna go from there and just have a discussion.
All right, all right. Basically, it was I guess the essence of the response where I guess to me it's kind of a disconnect where um, to hold people alive today to the standard or to the actions of people who came before them seems to be a backwards in motion type of attitude.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's just start there. See, this is my rebuttal to when people say I might be judging white people based off what their ancestors did. I have two places in that argument I'm disagreeing with you, brother. One
All right, all right.
is that we are not exclusively. I'm not exclusively talking historical when I speak of Europeans being the oppressor of Africans. So when I say I'm not going to marry the daughter of my oppressor, I'm speaking currently today too, because Europeans are still known across the world to oppress brown people and specifically African people. And two, if we are speaking historical from a historical point of view, Europeans their oppression has led to white privileges today. And everything that white people have and that they're getting is from their ancestors. I do not make a disconnect between a father and his child. Personally, I do, but not historically, nor do I genetically, because they are one. That child would not exist without the fathers and the grandfathers of the past. Therefore, they're connected in my eyes. So that's why I could never, date my daughter's the oppressor, my oppressor's daughter.
Okay, so just out of clarification, basically is where like the sins of the father are kind of put onto the children at that point, because I guess if it was reversed, I guess, um, because what I'm hearing is basically uh, cultural prejudice is what is being, I guess, advocated. You kind of advocating for the whole community to distance themselves socially from an entire group of people simply based on their membership of a certain ethnic group.
Um, I would say so. I would definitely say so, but I want to give some facts behind that.
Okay.
I don't want to just seem like I'm being a bigot or I'm just being ignorantly or racist or prejudiced. Um, and any of this could be looked up for anybody watching. Just go to your tab and look it up if you want. But from the moment of integration with Europeans, something that we have so much pride in accomplishing, which was social equality. Since then, we have seen a dramatic increase of households with no with single parenting, a dramatic increase on black crimes, dramatic increase on black alcoholism, dramatic increase of drug addiction, dramatic increase of disconnection of the community, so on and so forth. And I say that to say that when our culture did mix with European culture, it affected us in a more negative way and affected them in a more positive way. And I think that is historically repetitive. I think if you look at people all the way back from ancient Kemet, from the 25th dynasty, where we see the fall of black ancient Egypt after they reconquered, I believe, the Persians or the Romans. I'm not sure, but they came back in the 25th dynasty and they mixed in with a lot of Greeks, Romans, and before they knew it, Egypt was gone. Or we see this with the Moors. When the Moors trusted the Europeans and mixed their culture with their culture and even taught them, they were also taken advantage of. And of course, we see this with Mayafa, or the enslavement of the Western enslavement of African peoples. So I just want to make it clear that, yeah, I am saying that the mixture in culture and in race is hacking. I am against that clearly, but that is backed historically. My reasonings for that is backed historically.
Okay, well, the reasons you gave are interesting, but I guess the common theme I see with them are all those reasons you're referencing a certain group of people who just happen to be European conquering another civilization or another group of society, and cultural disintegration happens with any culture, with any conquered culture. When the Jews were conquered by the Romans, their culture suffered, and even within Africa, when the ancient Egyptians conquered Nubia, well, most people don't even know where Nubia was on the map because their culture disintegrated as a result of it. So, but when you see um, cultural exchange, when it's not because of a war or not the result of battle, then you see a more amicable exchange between the cultures. Like you see like with the Chinese and the silk trade, or and you see the Silk Road bringing culture to various different other cultures and bring in a renaissance. It's more, there's no cultural disintegration, it's cultural spreading.
Well, it depends upon the people engaged in the Renaissance. And in bringing up the Renaissance, we can go back to the 25th dynasty of ancient Egypt. So, though it was helping at first, the Renaissance, but the mixing of culture allowed the Europeans to invade and conquer, and the Persians to invade and conquer because of all the mixing and the confusion of the cultures. So don't get me wrong, I'm not a purist. I'm not saying that white people cannot be around black people at all. I'm not a purist in that sense.
Hmm.
I understand that people need to trade in cultures and people can learn from other cultures. But what I'm saying is there seems to be a certain amount of trust from black people engaging with Europeans, um, to the point where we believe they stole everything, but everything wasn't necessarily stolen. Everything was shared, and they did not give credit for what we originally shared with them. So that's why we say
Hmm.
it's stealing. So it is stealing, but it's not stealing as in they forcibly took it. We were so willing to share in these Renaissance, in these ages of enlightenment, in these ages of teaching and academia and scholarship and trade, that they took it and gave no credit historically for what we gave. And so to take this back to relationships, I think that this will have the same exact impact on the family if we know, brother, for a fact that the answer to most of the black community's problem is a black family, which is a black mother, a black father, and a black child. Then I don't understand how we could allow or teach that it's okay to have a black husband, a white wife, and a child.
I guess when we talking in today, we're talking as far as the black community and how it is today, and the survival or the eventual thriving of that society. Well, in America, we see right now the result of that type of separation with the Native Americans. The Native Americans are totally isolated, and they suffer because of it because they refuse to integrate, and they were put in that position by the Europeans. We all know that. But if you go to a Native American uh, reservation now, they hold a lot of animosity towards the Europeans, justifiably so. But the refusal to integrate, you see there's less and less of them because they have that family structure, or that's what they attempt to do. And what you're talking about might be, I might be able to see it in a theoretical sense, but if we're talking in a realistic sense, is I don't think it's viable.
Okay. Well, on the point of the Native Americans, as you said, the Native American suffering is not so much that they wanted to uh, be separate. That wasn't where the suffering came from. It literally came from them trying to integrate their culture with Europeans, and they built so much animosity because they were portrayed so many times to the point where it was almost complete genocide against their people. And then on top of that, now we're talking about the Native Americans assimilating or integrating with people who took their land. So of course they're gonna be like, no, I don't want to assimilate with you. You should be assimilating with me. I came out of this land. My forefathers came out of this land. Your forefathers took it away. And as far as them suffering today and currently, that is also because where they're pushed to. They were given camps in certain areas where you can't really prosper in a modern society, and they've been put in situations where they cannot come up in a modern society. So I don't want to blame it all on Europeans because, of course, Native Americans are respectful enough to know that they have some doing in their own oppression, as all people do. But I don't want to make it seem like it's because they decided to segregate, and they didn't necessarily decide that either.
No, they were segregated. We know history. You know, they were put in the corner. And what I'm saying is, in 2015, once something was done to you, it's the same if it was on a personal level. If we take it on a one-on-one level, and and you were walking down the street and somebody robbed you and they beat you to a pulp, and that's gonna leave a scar. You're never gonna forget that, and you might not trust people the same way ever again after that. But you also can't allow yourself not to progress and allow yourself to stay in that same mindset that you were in when that attack happened.
I I completely agree, but I also remember that you should take heed in what happened to you, and remember that it should not happen again. So I wanna bring up this argument with you. Okay, so we can both agree on throughout history, white people regularly mixing with black people culturally, biologically, and intimately turn out positive for whites and negative for blacks. If the first premise is true, which you just heard, we should avoid regular mixing with white people. Historically and currently, this is true. Therefore, we must stop regularly mixing with white people. That is pretty much my stance
Mm-hmm.
on the topic that we're at right now. I feel like if the first premise is true, which that every time we share culturally, intimately, or any other way, it normally turns out positive for white people or Europeans and negatives for the Africans or the indigenous people of lands. And if
Definitely.
that's true, then maybe we should stop. If that's been the repetitive theme throughout our history dealing with Europeans.
I think part of that premise, I do think that the first premise is true. I think we can agree on that. But the issue that I take with it is that I think that it's an oversimplification because I think that context matters. And so I think that the context of the overwhelming majority of all of these instances is that when black people interacted with Europeans, it was almost never a mutually agreed upon interaction. It wasn't, we see each other and we decide mutually that we're going to exchange and whatever. It was, I'm coming to take something, and either you're going to give it to me or I'm going to take it. Usually that's how the interactions go. And so whenever those interactions happen, it's going to benefit the person taking, especially if they have the power to take it. And I have a running joke with some of my people that, um, white people, Europeans historically only mastered one thing throughout all of history, and they mastered how to take stuff. And that's why they where they are because wherever they go, they know how to take it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that if you change the context of the interaction, then you can change the outcome of the interaction.
Well, I'm glad you said that though, because I'm curious. What do you think about? And I keep bringing it up. What do you think about places like ancient Egypt and the Moors? Because their interaction was very agreeable. It wasn't a force like the Romans didn't force. They couldn't. They weren't in a position to force the ancient Egyptians at the time to interact with them, and the Moors seemed as though they were in a position of power regarding the Spaniards and some of the people in a lot of the medieval times. So, what do
Mm-hmm.
you think about black people like them? And clearly, that still didn't work out for these
You're
groups.
right. And what I would say about the ancient Egyptians, I'm not too learned on the Moors, but what I will say about the ancient Egyptians is that the way their society was structured, sad it is to say, when societies are structured like that, it's really only a matter of time before something like that happens. Because they had a very open society. They would meet travelers and greet them, and whatever literature they would have, they would copy the books and give the travelers the copies and keep the originals. And so they had a very open society. And so, what do our parents tell us all the time when we too friendly? Somebody's gonna take advantage of you. And I think that is different than I think that's the exception to the rule is with ancient Egypt.
No, well, no doubt, and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that we are sharing our black women too much, and I think that black women are sharing their men too much, and maybe we should stop sharing because I think if black women, like our moms, our sisters, our aunts,
hmm
are the least likely to get married, and one of the main reasons for them being the least likely to get married is that black men are marrying white women at twice the rate they're marrying black women. Um, then we should stop marrying white women. To me, it would obviously follow. You may see that as an oversimplification, but if the one of the main problems is that black men are dating outside of their race for our mothers, daughters, sisters, aunts, maybe we should help them by not dating outside of the African race.
I think that if you could implement that, obviously it would fix that problem. But I think that you're treating a symptom instead of treating the problem. I think that it's not a coincidence that um, black women are getting married less, and a huge part of that is because black men are marrying white women at an unprecedented rate, but also that just in America in general, 50% of all marriages end in divorce. And so I think that there's a fundamental issue with the culture as a whole that's a problem. And I think that because the African American culture is small compared to the other compared to white culture, that it affects us more heavily. And and I think that if you want to have a lasting solution, you fix the marriage problem and not who we marry,
You
because
know,
it just makes sense. Just one last thing. I think it would only make sense that if you are a man, right, and you grow up in the black community, and for the first 18 years of your life, all you see every return is black women, beautiful black women, and then you get 25 to 30, and then you marry a white woman. I think the disconnect there, because I don't think that there's anything wrong with black women. I don't think that there's anything. I don't think that black women have this type of repellent that's making us run away. I think that there's some type of disconnect that's happening, whether it be in the media, whether it be in how our culture cultivates that type of behavior. I think there's something that's causing a disconnect that within the larger American culture that's causing that versus than just the we're dating outside our race. I think there's a larger issue at work.
well, I'm glad that you said that there's a larger issue because we agree on that, and I'm glad you said I'm treating the symptom. I am talking about one of the symptoms, but not of the problem of marriage. It's the problem of white supremacy. To me, that's the problem. If you want to talk about what's going on in black cultures and black marriages and black families and black neighborhoods, the main problem is white supremacy. Now, of course, a lot of black problems are the discussion and are what we might call the symptoms, but the main sickness, the main virus is white supremacy. So how do we fight white supremacy if we're marrying white women? To me, it almost contradicts itself. And I'm gonna give you a I'm gonna give you another example. Because this is what I really think about when we talk about interracial dating and interracial marriages with white and black people. I think what most people are going to say about love today is that it's do what you want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to say do what makes you feel happy.
Right.
This is Western philosophy. This comes from Greek philosophy, and you might have also heard it put in another way by a famous Satanist who said, "Do what thou wilt," which
Mm-hmm.
means the same thing as "do what you want, do what makes you happy."
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the African culture did not have that philosophy. The philosophy was Ubuntu for most, not all, but for most African cultures on the continent. It was Ubuntu, which is I am because we are, which means there is no self without the we. So you do for the we. And if you do for the we, then you're truly doing for the self. So when I'm thinking about this, I'm not thinking about people individually. Like for example, brother, I think that you're thinking about love for a person, and if they love somebody, no doubt I can't stop them. If they love somebody, but I have to think about the effect that it has on the people as a whole. So I want to give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, because I teach children a lot, so I always have to keep this in mind. Let's say you're teaching a bunch of young, underage black women who look up to you, or black girls who look up to you as a positive male, intelligent, successful role model. And you're
Mm-hmm.
telling them every day that they're beautiful, that melanin is beautiful, and black is beautiful, and kinky hair is beautiful, and you're telling them they're queens, da da da, and they're believing all of this. They're like, wow, he's so positive, he's so intelligent. And then one day you come into class with your wife, and she's a white woman.
Mm-hmm.
What is the effect that you think that's going to have on the psyche of a young black girl? That is going to tremendously affect her perception on herself. If she sees you as an intelligent, successful black brother, what does he like? Because it doesn't matter if you don't discriminate. The kids don't know that. They can only go with what they see. They see they see many successful, intelligent black men with white women. And this makes them feel inferior, which is the point of white supremacy.
I think that that example could and would be borderline traumatic for those young girls. But I also believe in balance. And so when you teach kids or when you teach anybody, when you present a philosophy to somebody, I don't think that it should be in a vacuum. And what I mean is when, like with religion, right? A lot of people teach Christianity and they teach the Bible as if the Bible stands apart from all history and every historical thing that happened around that time had nothing to do with what happened in this book, and that's doing a disservice to the people trying to learn the philosophy because you can't get the whole picture. And so when you teach, these kids that they are beautiful, you have to teach them that yes, they are beautiful, but beauty isn't only described or beauty isn't only, defined by one thing. Because that's what we have to teach them anytime anyway. When they look at magazines, when they look at models, when they look at all of the pop culture and what society says is beauty, it's all white. And so you have to teach them anyway that beauty isn't, yes, that's beautiful, but beauty isn't defined only by one thing. You are beautiful and they are beautiful at the same time. And so when you see who I'm with, then you also need to see, George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, come in with his black wife. And you also need to see, whatever black man come in with his Asian wife. And you need to see that, beauty is not um, linear. Beauty has many facets, it's multifaceted, and you are beautiful, just as beautiful as anybody else with any other complexion and from any other ethnic background.
Hmm. Now, I would agree with you in saying that beauty is an eye beholder and it's important for kids to see diversity. But we have to remember what kids we're talking about. These children do not see diversity. And even if you do show them diversity, it still doesn't matter because if you're on the opposite spectrum of white, and white is supreme, then most of the images that you see around you are going to promote and push that. When they see actresses, they're normally lead actresses, they're normally white. When they see movies and cartoons, right? We live in a world where there are majority black, colored, brown people. But since we live in a world of white supremacy, when you look at cartoons, you're going to see white people. And so over and over and over and over again, they see white this, white that, white this, white that. And so what I'm saying is the only hope they see is a physical representation of a good man. And they see him. But then they see a white woman on his arm. So what I'm saying is, of course, diversity, can be argued for, but the black girls who are 5 and 10 and 12-year-olds can't even understand what you're talking about when you say violence. Not in a logical formatic standpoint. They don't really know much about that. But what they can conceive of is examples, is what I'm saying. So they're not going to see George Lucas. Then they're only going to see the black men in their neighborhoods. And the black men in their neighborhoods, in my opinion, are not doing the best jobs of setting an example. But let's also use black boys in this
Mm-hmm.
context. So you go and so I'm a black man and I teach black boys, and they look up to me and then they see me with a white woman. They're going to associate. If they look up to me, they're going to associate leadership, successful, with white counterpart, trophy, which also leads to subjugation of also white women as being seen as trophy materialistic objects, which black men do often see white women as.
Mm-hmm.
And so they stick in their heads, wow, I need to have a white girl to show off. They might not even be attracted to her mentally, but she's white. My homies is going like that, and I know my old head might be proud of me because I know he got a white girl, and so they'll start thinking like that, and they'll think that a black girl is less of a successful counterpart than a white woman. And in order to solve these problems amongst the youth is to set examples. That's all I'm saying. We can only set examples. So me dating a white woman is going to hurt the black community. And I got to think of the black community first before I think of myself, is what I'm saying.
I feel it. I feel it. The way I see it is that there's so much that the black community, in my opinion, needs to do in order to help these young kids that we supposed to be teaching and being an example for, that who we date to me is not doing, I guess I don't think it's doing as much of a detriment as you think it is, because I feel like once we get to that point, once they cognitively get to that point where, okay, he's successful and he's bringing around this woman, so that must mean when I'm successful, that's what I got to get. There's too many steps that we stumbled upon and we haven't gotten to before that even, to me, makes sense, because it, because at least in my community, the concept of young black men looking at another black man and seeing success and seeing something that's what they want to strive to is almost an urban legend. And so, and to me, the black community is too splintered and fractured as a culture, and I don't think that, and they're already marrying each other and they're already being with each other, but as a culture, as far as cultivating this knowledge, and as far as cultivating all the things that make us special, and then imparting that and being an example and showing that to the next generation, to me, that we're already failing at that. And so, you know, it's not, to me, it's a symptom of, it's again a symptom of a bigger problem, of a more pressing problem, that, you know, if you want to take that philosophy where we have to look out for the whole, we have to look out for the community before we look out for self, then there's some other things that need to be done and need attention, and need a lot more attention than the spouse.
Than our black woman, brother. I would think since
Well, no, because if you say the black woman, then there are several things that we need to impart in our young black women to make them feel valuable about themselves before we even get to a black man showing them affection.
well, I
Because
think,
they, hmm?
but that would be automatically a part of it. Most black women who are heterosexual, whether they admit it or not, seek the approval of black men, and most of what they do is a cause or an effect that was caused by the actions of black men. And so when I'm speaking, so like you said, so we're talking about the whole community and what's best for the community. I have to think of the black woman first because she births the whole community. You know, that's her first job is her birthing the community. So if she's not right, if she's not happy, if she's not okay, then the community won't be right, the community won't be happy, and the community won't be okay. What I'm saying is, it's really unfair the position that black women are in economically. Like for example, they can't find there's another fact I want to give you that pretty much says when income was factored into a 2000 study, the authors found that as black male income increased, interracial marriages increased proportionately until at the highest income level, $100,000 and above. Nearly 50% of black men were married to non-black women, and that's from the psychology today. And to me, that is really, really unfair to our black women. Um,
Definitely.
the pickings are already slim, the ratio is already off, so why would we even give them another burden? In my opinion, they deserve better. And if we could do something so little, it's not like black women are are ugly. Black women are beautiful. They come in all shapes and sizes. Some of them come looking pale. So I don't understand. So if you go looking for a European, it has to be, in my opinion, an object of self hate because black women literally have everything that white women have and more. In my opinion, not just my opinion, but physically definitely, but my
Well,
opinion also personally, they
hmm
have whatever a white woman can have and more. So if you're choosing a white woman,
hmm
in my opinion, it might deal with some form of self hate. Most black men that you know, not all of them, because I have people in my family who date out their race, but most black men will tell you, I don't date black women because they're loud, they're obnoxious, they always worry about being so strong and they're arrogant and blah blah blah, without knowing that they just describe themselves. So I think that a lot of that comes from more of a self hatred point of view. And I think that if it came from a more love point of view, we would see white women marrying poor black men. We only see high status, high level, high income black men marrying poor or middle class white women. We don't see the vice versa. That's a red flag to me.
I think that it's more of a, I think that the self-hate aspect is definitely at play, but I also think that it's more of an optics than anything else. Because if you put yourself in the shoes of the average black man who is on the path to super success, which that path is going to look like a football field or some type of sporting arena or some type of musical path, the, the then you look at the landscape of the people who get there. First of all, as a black man, when you look at that landscape, it's surrounded by white people. You even when you're a football player and you get to a professional football team, all the players, might be black, and so you're good there. But you're still in a position where everybody who's telling you what to do, maybe you got a black coach. That's about as high as it goes. Everybody else who's telling you what to do is white, and then so you're still beholden to the white supremacy that we talk about, and then the white standard. We live by the white standard in this country. Everything is dictated by the white standard, and so the white standard dictates what is success, and that perception of success that the white standard dictates is what we grab onto. We don't see a mass movement of black people gaining success and then going back and redefining what it is to be a successful black man. We don't see that. We see black men who gain success, who gain wealth, and then they try to assimilate into what the white supremacy or the white standard has defined as success. And you see a couple deviations. You might see we're a lot more flashy when we do it. We'll buy chains and cars and stuff like that. But all in all, we separate ourselves from the black community as a whole, aside from our mama and the boys, you know. And so we don't do business with black owned businesses. We don't invest in black owned businesses. We don't invest in the black community with any, aside from feeding people, which is something but not enough. It's a systematic issue that when you have black success, when you have individual black success, you don't have a correlating black community success. And so when you have black successful people who feel like I have to act like white people do when they gain success, then you have black people separating themselves from their culture. And with that comes, a woman who's not from my culture.
Exactly. So if that's part of what comes out of white supremacy, then how could you say that it's okay for black men to do it?
Because I think that the fix is how we act when we get success, and that could be any level of success. That could be the super success of a football player, or just the middle class success or the high middle class success. We need to change how we operate, how we think about success. Because what's the first thing many black people talk about or think about when they talk about getting money? Oh, when I get money, I'm gonna get out the hood. But why? You know, the standard of success is to be around white people. So it's not about, the problem isn't we're dating white people or marrying white people, because you can have the coach if they stayed here. First of all, if they stayed here, they just wouldn't. Probably there would be less marrying of white people. You wouldn't have to have a mandate of we shouldn't date white people, because they just wouldn't. And then the ones who did date white people, it wouldn't affect the wholesale culture as much, because it would be a lot less.
Hmm. Well, we gotta get into question and answer because we only got about 20 minutes left.
All
Uh,
right.
I don't know if you got any questions and answers on your Instagram, but I've been sent some from the first one I'm gonna ask is Kim underscore 213. I really love this. I don't know if you're watching right now. I really love this follower. She's really amazing. She's always showing love. But that's KIMB underscore 213. Is it only going to be blacks and whites, or will we be discussing other races? Then she asks, how do you feel about biracial queens and kings? So I I'll answer that first, and then I'll let you answer it. As far as other biracial groups, because the people who are most likely to date outside the race are actually Asians first, then black men second. Asian women first, then black men second. And now, if we're going to speak about black men dating other people other than white people, I would say I don't. I also am not. I'm not with that either. The people who are
Mm-hmm.
least likely to date outside the race are white people. So I don't even know why we're trying to date them, because they're not even really trying to date us. We just so happen to date them because in America they're the majority. They just so happen to date. But they're the least likely to date outside the race. But if we're talking about Hispanics and Asians, I would date the Afro Latinos and the Afro Asians. And by that I mean the Asians who have a clear African ancestry, and the
Mm-hmm.
Latinos who have a clear African ancestry. To me, they're just as African as I am. You might see a Latino with kinkier hair, bigger nose, bigger lips, browner
Mm-hmm.
skin. It happens because they are also they also came where they are from the Mayafa. A lot of us look different because we had different mixes. For example, if you are here in the Americas, you probably had dominantly over 80% African blood, then Native Americans, as such as the ones that we call Indian, wrongfully so.
Mm-hmm.
And then, last but not least, I guess the Europeans, which would be over here the English.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if you go to Spain, and I try to clear this up with a lot of Puerto Ricans, um, over there, their mix would be first over 60% African or over 70% African. Second, I forgot the name of the indigenous people of Spain. Um, uh, I forgot. Sorry. And then third would be the Spaniards. So everywhere you go, it really depends on what they mix with that took out more recessive or dominant traits within them. But no, I'm not against somebody of African descent dating somebody of Asian African descent, nor Latino African descent. How do you see people dating Asians, Latinos? Obviously, you don't kill Europeans. How do you see the rest of it?
Uh, Basically, I mean, I guess it's kind of when you talk about one minority and another minority, we're so small that the instances that it happens are so statistically insignificant that I guess when you're talking about the culture as a whole, it doesn't really tip the scale one way or another. Um, so I really wouldn't have a problem with it. I would say that, yeah, I would have to look at the numbers again. but I don't think that it happens enough because you have black people and then white people, like you said, are populate every corner of the country. So if you're going to date outside your race, then it is probably gonna be a white person just because they're there.
Yeah.
Um, but
How do you feel about biracial children? Are they
uh,
are they black or white? Are you against it? Are you with it? Obviously, you're with it, but I'm
well, yeah,
saying like,
yeah, I'm always with it. I'm just a big melting pot, but I love biracial children. I think that the important thing with biracial children, if you're going to have them, then I think with interracial relationships in general, but especially when you're talking one minority with another minority, um, I think it's important that any biracial child have and be influenced as equally as possible, as humanly possible, by both dominant heritages. So if you have a young black, if you have a black person have a child with um, an Asian person, I guess, then I feel like then the influences of both cultures should be present within the child's life so the child can understand his heritage in full.
most definitely. I think uh, biracial children are black. I say this because, as y'all know, I say this often. Black women have something called the Eve gene, which means they possess all the genes of every single woman on the planet. Black people,
Mm-hmm.
as a whole, have just about all the genes on the planet. So how can a black person mix with somebody else? So if I was to have a child, which I never would have a child with a white woman, um, my child would have the same genes that I have.
Right,
So how is that child mixed? It takes that child to then again um, marry a white person, and then their child marry a white person, their child marry white, for them to really become white. But they at first would have the same genes that
right,
I have. So to me,
right,
that's not mixed. That's still African descent. Their recessive genes just show more than my recessive genes would show on me.
right.
But to me, they are still of African descent. But I am against people making biracial children because a lot of them end up confused, especially children of white and black ancestry. The reason why is because when they go to their family reunion, they see all these white people, right? And we may need, look, a revolution may happen. We may need as many black people as we can get, right? And a biracial child may be confused about what side they should stand on because they have a white mom and a white aunt and a white cousin, maybe even a white brother in some cases. So you confuse a lot of children on who they are. They go through school, and
Mm-hmm.
the white kids don't see them as black. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
white, and the black kids don't see them as black. So now they're put in this middle situation where they feel like I don't know what I am. You know, some of their family members might also treat them poorly and bad, literally like the black sheep of the family. So I think this is all the cause from people being irresponsible and dating outside of their race. I think that, I'm not saying biracial people should be unhappy with themselves. I see, obviously, a lot of people find them beautiful, as do I. But I am saying that it leads them to a lot of confusion. And note, historically, they used biracial or mulatto children to take over other nations. It's how they did it here on this land. It's how they do it in Africa. Matter of fact, the Asians are doing this right now. I think in either Nigeria or Uganda. I'm not sure, but in Africa. So, um, I mean, if a biracial child identifies as black, I'm with you. We on the same team. But if they're neutral, then I see them in the same light as I see a black person who cannot pick a side and a disagreement between black and whites.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't subscribe to the neutral uh type of philosophy. I don't, and honestly, when you're talking about the type of biracial where it's a black um parent and a white parent, I don't think that the choice. I know people like to say that whoever you identify with, but I don't think that those type of biracial children get a choice.
No,
a lot of the times
you're right.
because you can identify with white as long as you want, but if you look black, then society will treat you like black. So you don't really. I mean, you can't when you get pulled over and shot in the middle of the street, you can't be like, "Don't shoot me because I'm white."
Hmm. They're not going to see you as white. I completely agree with that notion. But based on your notion with picking sides, let me give you an example because we only have about 8 more minutes. Unless you have anybody on your Instagram that asks any questions,
Nope, nope, I didn't have any.
we only have about 8 more minutes. I want to ask you this, brother,
Hmm.
straight up. Now, let's say, in my opinion, we already been in a race war, black people for over 500 years. But let's say a critical, real, as you can see in this climate of racial tension, a race war breaks out, right?
Right.
And me and you are looking at this brother, and his brother, he's going off, he's preaching, he's like, yeah, the black man's this, and the black woman's that, da da da. He's snapping. You're like, yeah, brother, yeah, I'm with you, I'm walking with you, brother. Then all
Hmm.
of a sudden, he's like, oh yeah, everybody, well, here's my white wife. Right? Now, wouldn't you have a certain amount of mistrust for that brother? Didn't he kind of discredit a lot of things that he was saying?
I don't think because a lot of people like to simplify it and say, well, you practice what you preach, right? And
Yeah, I'm a big
right,
believer in that.
exactly. And concept, I am too. But I will say that I think it's a little bit more complex than that because I think that you can preach something, you can say that something is right, you can believe something, and like if I say that the black man is strong and the black man is most powerful and then the black woman is beautiful and the black woman is a queen and the black woman should be respected and I got a white wife, perception might make it seem like I just delegitimized what I just said, but in reality, who I choose to be with and doesn't make my statements any less true. And I don't think that just because you can say black women are beautiful. And it depends on his words. Did he say black women are most beautiful? There's nobody more beautiful than the black woman. But I spend the rest of my life with a white woman. Then at that point, I'm like, well, come on, dog. But if he's just like black women are beautiful, black women should be respected in qualitative terms, then you know I think that you can believe those statements and still be with somebody who's not black.
No doubt. But the question is, brother, wouldn't you have a right as a black man being led into a revolution to have a bit of a distrust to this man? Because he's sleeping with the oppressors, the same people that y'all fighting against.
Mm-hmm.
He's sleeping with them. He's
Well, if we talking in this scenario, you're talking about a race war breaks out, then I'm gonna look at it.
go ahead.
Well, but I'm gonna look at it like a real war. I'm gonna look at it as like it's this side that I'm on, and it's this side that they on, right?
Mm-hmm.
But just like any other war, you got people on this side that I'm fighting who don't believe, subscribe, or endorse the that side. You got the French American War. You got Americans fighting the French. You got French people who like I don't really have a problem with these people. I don't. You got people who side with the Americans. You got people in the Civil War who lived in the South who sided with the Union.
So, what you're telling me, see, I'm not talking about just the average ongoing. I'm talking about the leaders. So you're telling me if let's go with Obama, I don't know, and let's say America's at war with China,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, and Obama divorces his black wife. Let's put that aside. He marries a Chinese woman. What do you think America's natural reaction would be in the middle of a war between America and China? Obama marrying a Chinese woman. What do you
No,
think
you
America?
if you're talking about the perception of it, you absolutely right. If Obama decides in the middle of this war to marry um, a Chinese woman, everybody in the country, from California to D.C., is gonna look at him like he crazy, and they're gonna lose a little bit of respect for him.
Now, is
But
that wrong? He's the leader.
I, I think so. I think it is wrong. I think that your ability to lead, first of all, if you can wage a war, I feel like it's just like a family. I feel like if you can look at your family members, right, and you love your family members, you would die for your family members. But if you can muster up the inner strength and the moral fortitude to put when one of your family members commit a crime, to put them in jail when you're the police officer, I think I'm like, if you're the police officer and one of your cousins is the drug kingpin, and you, as a police officer, can still put that drug kingpin in jail, then I feel like that makes you stronger as a leader.
Well, I'm glad you said that because you just said he put his biases aside with being a family member and did
Mm-hmm.
what he's supposed to do as a leader. Now, as a leader, if you're in a war, you're supposed to be unapologetic, uncompromised,
Mm-hmm.
unless necessary, with the other side that who are trying to oppress or hurt your people. So, in my opinion, we've been in a race war for 500 years. Like I said, I think we're in a war right now as we speak. So, brother, do you really think that I have the right to claim we're in a race war, to be talking all this black power, black improvement, black this, black family, black structure, and then marry a white girl? Do you really think that's okay? Do you think that's helping people? Or do you think that's going to confuse people, enrage people, misguide people?
No, we agreeing on the perception. I agree that the effects on the general population is going to be negative. I totally agree, but I also think that the general population of people in America, black, white, Asian, Latino, I think that Americans uh, give in to mob mentality. They take perception and
But
turn it into reality.
but like you said, they do have the perception comes out of distrust. And what I'm saying is that's your God-given instinct. When you look at something, you're like, "Whoa, I don't trust that. I don't like the look of that."
That's
The
not.
reason why people don't, the reason why people don't like the look of black leaders who speak for black people with white women because it does not represent black empowerment. There's no way that you can say a black man and a black woman represent. I mean, a black man and a white woman represent black empowerment. It's just no way.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm
Okay,
saying
hold up. Now, wait, hold up. Now that you, that's not what you're saying, because we both know that's not true. Since we know that's both not true, we know that the symbol of black empowerment is black family, black man, black woman.
that's a premise. That's a premise that I'm not signed on to.
With time out,
The
with time out, because whether you side with it or not, we know for a fact there's a correlation between the black struggles today with interracial dating and integrating. I'll give you the fact. Not only black women, actually black women were least likely to get married to get married, period, after the 1970s. Prior to the 1970s, black women were more likely than white women to get married. And we already spoke about the alcoholism and the
mm-hmm.
gang violence and the black on black violence increasing. So that means that we know it probably started where? In the black family, in the black home. What happened is a lot of these black neighborhoods lost a strong black role model who were moving to integrate in white neighborhoods where they were getting paid more money. So we took the head off, the man head off of the community. It went crazy with these black men going to black communities, marrying white women, getting with white women. They left the black community defenseless. So since we know that has happened historically, how could to repeat this mistake and to continue dating other women help or be a symbol of black empowerment?
Because you making a correlation that you,
I lost you, brother. Oh, there you are. I think you froze. You froze. Well, looks like my brother froze. I'm trying to wait for him. We're just about out of time anyway, over a minute. If you can hear me, brother, I thank you for coming on to the show. Thank you for all the people viewing this. Hey, if you want me to keep making videos like this, please subscribe. It's hot in here. But please subscribe, 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 subscribe. All right? Share, 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 share. Like. Okay? Sunday, I believe so. If you guys recall my Instagram, I had a disagreement about the 4th of July and about me being American. I said I'm African, not American. I do not celebrate the 4th of July. If anything, I go and get free food. That's all the day means to me. And a black woman or a biracial woman replied, and a lot of you guys saw this on my Instagram. Me and her are having a discussion on our disagreement on Sunday. I hope many of you tune in. Ashe, I love all of y'all. If anybody is interested in asking me questions one-on-one, hit up my DM. You can contact me. Please follow me on Instagram at AL_KEMETS. Blessings, Ashe, Hotep. I love all of y'all. Like power.